The magic of bubbles, the science of bubbles. Good morning, everybody. At least for me, it's morning. What I'm doing is I'm sitting at my art table having a cup of coffee. And I decide, okay, this is my morning to do a video. And I have several on my mind. But today, it's bubble science. Now, just to let you know, in another life, when I was younger, I taught, I've taught many things, but one of the things I did teach was science, and I taught it in middle school, mainly. I've taught at others levels, but mainly middle school. And one of our units was usually on, well, not on bubbles, but we called it the bubble unit, because we were going to be teaching a lot of the science behind bubbles. And it's fascinating for the kids. They loved it. But then I realized, okay, so we grown-ups are using bubbles now. I am not an expert in UV resin. I have used the two-part resin for years in my work. I'm an artist, and I use mixed media. And so I have used it. And I liked it because if I was going to put it out indoors, or if it just gave me a better protectant over what I was going to be finishing, And so then I'm a big YouTuber. I'm on it, but I like to watch it. And and I started to see the UV resin. Mainly I was seeing it with nails, they were doing it, but then I noticed it. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. It's using a light source. It's a different way to go about it. And then I started to see the bubbles. And in all different ways. People were using it all different ways. And just to let you know, this is what I'm talking about. See the little bubbly, the resin gets like a little bubble on it. And it's been fascinating. People like to put it on surfaces of a lot of things, on glass, on wood, on plastic, or whatever their project is. They just feel like the bubbles add this little texture to it, and I'm a big texture person. If you look at my YouTube videos, you see I like to talk about texture. Well, then I realized, I said, I want to give you guys the science behind it, because I think that's helpful. It's like we should have the science behind glues, or everybody wouldn't be buying Mod Podge. But I digress. That's just my own peccadillo that I get on my high horse about. But right now, so bubbles. And we're talking about bubbles. And I've seen it, being used on YouTube. And the thing about bubbles is, and one of the things if you're using it to do it on pieces here, you want it they suggest you use Dawn. Well, yes, Dawn is great, but let's talk about why. And it doesn't, again, have to be Dawn. It just has to be what Dawn and its lookalikes are. So in order for bubbles to form, the soap substance has to have something on it called a surfactant. And what that really is an anionic, anionic, anionic surfactant is what it's really called, or sodium lauryl sulfate is what's in Dawn. You can look and see what other detergents, they have to put their, I don't know if it's a non-food has to put what's in it, but sometimes they'll tell you you're looking for sodium lauryl sulfate. Now, more substances than that are surfactants, but I believe that is what Dawn has in it. Anyway, that is what makes it all bubbly. And what it does is it reduces the surface tension of the water that's, on the edge. Remember, your bubble's just a thin little, so what that surfactant does is it just allows that to stretch. So before it bursts. So the surfactant makes it, and then the bubble can get bigger and stay because it stretches. So that's bubble technology. It's the surfactant. And there's actually ways to make that last longer. Like the kids, they began to say, that you can't catch a bubble, the bubble machine, and you try to touch them and they break on your hand. Well, they do, because you need to have something on your hand that the bubble likes, that doesn't interfere with the surfactant. And you can do that with glycerin. that's not the only thing. Our kids used to have to like research and find out what besides glycerin, corn syrup will work. You can look it up on the internet which one. But the glycerin, if you add a little to your Dawn solution when you're will make it last longer. And just to be a little bit, maybe give you a reference. Remember years ago when we wanted to have the bubble bath for our kids? You ever think about why did that bubble bath work better than just, whatever in there? Well, because it had a surfactant in it. And I don't know if it was exactly sodium lauryl sulfate back in the day, but it was something. And they may have even added a little glycerin to it so that the bubbles would last longer. And sometimes you notice, too, that you'd have your bubbles and then you'd put a regular soap in there to wash your children and the bubbles would disappear because that was breaking that surface tension of the surfactant and the glycerin and all that. The glycerin kind of thickens it and allows it, to keep going. So, and then you'll also remember then there became this thing about, children were getting urinary tract infections. And so doctors finally said, okay, it's this additive, this, the surfactant itself or the additive to the surfactant like the glycerin or other things that are like that. And of course, the fragrances that could add an irritant to the UTI tract and then so people didn't want to use bubble baths anymore. And sometimes it was just the culprit of sitting down in a bath and having the dirt of the water come back onto the urethra. But other video here, but we weren't going to do that anymore. But that's that science, guys. So you're looking at surfactants, you're looking at additions of glycerin to make it last longer. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to demonstrate a little bit how you might want to work with the bubbles on anything. And there's going to be a video here that shows you, because what I want to say to you is don't touch the bubbles. Try not to touch the bubbles. You can make them, but don't touch them because that breaks them. And some people are realizing that. And so they've tried to find ways to put it on or whatever. Just you could have glycerin on your glove, I guess. But rather than that, you could add a little glycerin to it. But just dip in. Don't bring the foam in your hand to the object. Take the object to the foam and dip it. And you're going to see how I did that in the video. But that's taking bubble technology or the science behind it into this what we're doing with the UV resin. And so that's what I was trying to do today. Just give us a better background. Some of you, you haven't had a chemistry class in years, right? Or maybe not at all. Sometimes if you're older, you never had to take chemistry. Or you didn't watch Bill Nye the Science Guy or something like that. But this is it. So now you're in the know. I like us people who are artists or hobbyists or whatever you are that know what you're working with, know what is behind this product, so then you can make better choices. So that's what this is all about. It's about bubbles and the technology behind it. I hope you enjoyed this and watch my little video coming up. So this is Dawn in some water. And you can see I've already been blowing a little, but watch. So then what you want to do if you've put your resin on is just you dip it in there. Don't pick it up. Just put it on there. And then you can hit it with your UV light like this. And that's going to make that work. So try to find some way where you could just do it like maybe a wider mouth rather than picking up and touching it. If you really wanted to touch it, why don't you put some glycerin on your glove? But rather than get all sticky and do all that, just put it in something like this. And also a thin lumen makes sure you're going to make it. And I have it bent a little bit. I don't know if metal's any better. I just decided to try it because it was thinner. And there you get it. And so you're then just going to take anything that's got the the resin on it, and then you just scoop it out and then you hit it. And that will be maybe a way so you're not touching it and you're going to get better bubbles and play with it. hope that was helpful. And see, I was making, this just happens to be on a gourd fragment, but it can be on anything, where I was beginning to start to put the bubble technology to work here. Okay, so that was my short little story about bubbles. Please, I'm just going to ask you, this is not a monetized channel, but could you please remember to hit the like button? And also, if you do have any comments, make them to me, not in my email, but in the comment section. And if you haven't subscribed, that's great. But I'm not going to be monetized, but if you'd like to, then you just know when I'm going to be putting the stuff up. But mostly just the like, because it helps the channel go faster or whatever it does. I don't understand everything about it. But anyway, so let me know if this was helpful and, give it a shot.